talk if I want to.
That's staying in, just so you all know. Hello, everyone, and welcome to State of the Realm. Well, with Endwalker coming out, we'll probably be getting close to weekly again. Podcast. I tripped over the words there a little bit, but that's okay. We're finally doing patch 5.55 SPOILERCAST. Yes, everything is on the table here. Woo! If you're not all the way caught up, there are spoilers, and we are casting them. So you have been warned.
Some things fell off the table.
Yeah. No, well, hopefully they didn't fall off the table. That's fine. So, yeah, to do that, you're going to need me. Well, need is a strong word. I'm Haps. Hey, what's up? We got Sly. We need him.
Hi.
Hey, what's up?
Do we?
I mean, who else is going to be the lore expert on this show? There's nobody else.
You sure about that?
I'm mostly sure. I mean, I guess maybe we should ask the third guy who's here.
Fucking Zivia doesn't fucking count because we're shitting those anyway. So yeah, we need somebody else.
Exactly. So that's why
did you guys?
No, we didn't do one.
Do you guys? Oh, I thought you were gonna like say that you had pyres or moves,
you know what? I legit almost did it. I contemplated it about 10 seconds ago, and I was like, nah, you know what? I'll just say it's Ethys.
You know, Frosty contemplated it for all of like 30 seconds before he replaced me.
Well, that's because nobody could reach you for months. We're the loyal ones who said, we'll wait. It's tradition.
That's right. You smart. You're loyal.
I'm definitely the second one.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. The first
Appreciate you.
Go buy your mom a house.
Hi.
That's good. Hi, everyone. Hi, how you doing? Welcome to SpoilerCast 5.55. We are doing it today, which means that 5.55 was no more than 2 weeks ago. A long 2 weeks. But that's how it works.
Yeah, I didn't know that May was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. 2019 was 2 weeks ago.
That's true. No, that was 20 years ago. That's incorrect. That was 20 years ago.
But it was also... It's an anomaly, so it was both.
So it's like Final Fantasy XIV's storyline. It's in a time bubble. That's a sensitive topic.
Actually, yes,
for some people.
We are definitely in the time bubble.
Okay,
that's not a bad analogy.
Okay.
Mike, you got some sponsors, right?
Yeah, we got Steel Series. Thanks for sponsoring the show. We haven't done a giveaway in a while just because it hasn't been consistent. So that's what they get. They get the thank you. They don't check anyway. They've never once watched the show. I'll be real. Maybe they have. Thanks for sponsoring. And thanks over on Patreon.
They're probably watching right now or probably watching the YouTube video.
Dude, it's 4 in the afternoon.
We love you.
Most of them do not.
Thank you for sponsoring us. We really appreciate it. Even don't listen to what he just said. We love you.
You guys don't know for a fact that I'm not working for Steel Series now.
If you don't know what you're working for, nobody does. It's a mystery.
Yeah.
It's a... Wait, here we go. It's a mystery. There you go. Break out the Bane voice for it. Also, thank you to our sponsors over on Patreon who support despite getting really nothing out of it except for a big thank you right here. So, thanks. So let's talk about the story.
We love you too. Yeah.
So let's talk about the
story. Just shitting on everybody in the intro.
I didn't shit on a single person. I said there's no real reason for you to do this, and I bet they don't watch anyway.
We still love you.
Yeah. Doesn't mean you can't appreciate. I said thank you. So 5.5.
Let's do the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do a show.
Yeah. So Ethys,
let's do a show.
What happened?
What happened in 5.55?
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah, what happened?
Okay. I was afraid you were going to put this on me. You're going to bring this heat down on me. Well,
yeah.
Do we want to go through it sequentially, or do we want to just like get to the juicy bits?
I think sequentially is the juicy bits.
Is it?
Sort of.
Yeah.
With everything that because a lot's happened in 5.5. Like collectively across both patches.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is true. So we start with a conference in Ala Mhigo. I think it's kind of interesting that Ala Mhigo has become our like de facto Eorzean Alliance headquarters, given that it's like in a terrible location.
Yeah.
It's like literally on the very, very northern border of Eorzea.
Why the fuck do we keep doing this?
The big thing...
We keep doing it
Why? Why? No,
it's the
tell
one
me
that was most
actually.
recently designed. Oh, it's the one that was most recently designed by the artist, so it's got like better textures and shit.
Okay. Now, what's the logical reason for us to be in there?
Yeah.
Because I'd imagine that Doma doesn't like going there. Doma doesn't have a great, easy way to get
It's easier
there.
for Doma. No, it's probably easier for Doma than it is for than it would be for Doma to get down to like Limsa Laminsa or Uldar, for instance.
I mean, that's where Gosetsu made it to the Waking Sands. I don't know. And Yugiri.
Yeah, Gosetsu just kind of got carried by the tide, I think.
And it sent him there. So I think we should have had all these meetings in the Waking Sands, is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. No, I see that. I think, so the main thing about Ala Mhigo is that the city, it's a citadel, right? It's like the most defensible position sort of historically in the whole realm, right? That's kind of what it was all about. Except maybe for Ishgard. But I think that it's a little bit more accessible than Ishgard as well. And it's also because I think like all of the Eorzean Alliance like military installations that came together at the beginning of Stormblood are all kind of like basically around there. And also the main front with Garlemald is kind of like a stone's throw away.
Yeah, Gimlet. Gimlet is still, as far as we know, where the line is drawn. Just there's no fighting, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, Gimlet's sort of no man's land at the moment, it seems.
Right. So that's where we are. And I got to ask a serious question to both of you. Why do they still think it's a good idea to go to these conferences? Because it does not have a good track record across.
That was my original question. Why do they still do these?
Well, the stakes are lower, right? If everyone gets tempered, if someone comes in and summons their primal and tempers everyone, we're just like, okay, that's annoying. Get the pigs in here.
Yeah, I'm sure that's fine.
Can't they just do one big link pearl call? Like, they don't have teleconferencing in Eorzeea? No?
If not, Nero needs to get on that.
I think the connection's like a little bit spotty, you know.
Damn.
It's true.
Any sort of interference kind of messes everything up.
It's fair.
But we've got all the beast tribes here. They're all united. They're all a little bit salty. We've got Raubon dressed up as an Amaljar, putting on his best Amaljar impersonation. Did you guys notice that?
Not really.
The Amaljar literally, it's literally just Raubon's voice actor, but like
okay,
holding his nose or something.
That I knew, yeah. But yeah, that scene is wild. If you imagine seeing that scene, so we've had a lot of new players picking up Final Fantasy 14 as of late. And when you're brand new, it's Amal's just summon Ifrit and Ixal summon Groot. Imagine not playing anything after like Praetorium and then seeing just a screenshot of that, or just seeing that scene of all the beast tribes just being like, yeah, we could do this, and it's like, didn't we hate you like 5 years ago? Isn't it? Are we forgiven now? Okay, it's all good. Thank you.
Yeah. So basically, we're negotiating how to kind of coordinate our defenses and investigate these towers at the same time. And depending on the dialogue choices we make, either ourselves or Alize come up with a suggestion for a grand company of Eorzea, which you would think would make Alphino a little bit trepidatious. But he starts crying instead. Actually, this was really nice. I'm seeing a really nice kind of like I don't want to say conclusion to Alphino's story arc, because then people are
I'm willing to say conclusion.
Truly?
Yeah, dude, listen, I've already told you what's happening to the twins in 6.0. Like, I've made my prediction. I'm calling.
But if they do the Final Fantasy IV thing, then they're going to be fine afterwards.
That's
anyway.
fine,
Like,
but they're going to make us think they're dead for the majority of it, and we're never going to revisit them. They're just going to show up in a cutscene, and they're going to be like, aha, I'm power of friendship. You can do it. And then we'll never see them again.
You really think so? You really think they're going to do something so obvious as to turn them into Palom and Porom?
Well, no, they're going to turn them to stone, but yeah, that's what Palom and Porom did. So, I'm just saying, it's going to happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we finally got I guess the catharsis for Alphino after all of his journey, all of his trauma. Through the Crystal Braves and the incredible mess that all of that caused, we have a united Grand Company of Eorzea.
And it's far grander than his initial sort of idea for it, because his initial idea did not include the Beastmen and the Beast Tribes being a part of it. He wanted a united Eorzea, but there was never really any talk way back when, because there was no way to assume it was even possible. However many years back at this point. So I still think he's trepidatious, but I think he's more proud in the moment than he is trepidatious based on the rest of the quests.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. The original plan was like one of the main functions of this Grand Company to sort of reconnect with the Beast Tribes and smooth all that over. It's just interesting. And this is something we've been talking about for a while, right? Is that we're being like united against this common enemy and all of that, right? Like Merlwyb's still in power because of Garlemald and because of this threat, right? Same with Nanamo, right? She hasn't abdicated the throne yet. She's maintaining the status quo for the same reason. Same with Carney, right? Carney has, supreme executive power over her council because of this threat. So what happens when we don't have this common enemy to unite us all? It's obviously a question for 6.x through to 7.0, but it's certainly going to be like some interesting sort of political change coming once this story arc is concluded, right?
Not necessarily. Like you said, Kane Senna is Kane Senna's fucking old. I don't think she's giving up that seat until she fucking dies.
I don't think she wants that seat. I actually don't think she wants it at all.
You're right. It's more. She feels it's her responsibility, I guess.
Yeah.
But like you said, in peacetime, even in peacetime, I really feel like you would have to kill her to get her off the seat.
She's in her 20s and she will live for at least another 250 years naturally. Yeah. But she's supposed to be she's not supposed to be in Gridania. She's supposed to be out in the wild communing with the elementals, and her role is basically supposed to be the bridge between the elementals and what they want and what they need and the council. And the council sort of interprets and deliberates and, has a reasonably sort of democratic process, right? They just decided that with the Garlemald threat, they didn't have time to deliberate. They just needed to and it was basically the same with Merlwyb, right? She was only supposed to be in power for 7 years, but they were like, we can't afford to have another trident, have another period of sort of political turmoil, political change here, because our enemies will immediately take advantage of that. We need to be united and all that. I don't think that they would have trouble with Carney. I think Gridania is probably the least problematic of those because they're already fairly united. The pirates, I would have thought, would have a lot of trouble. But it's really interesting how in the last couple of patches the MSQ has been oh no, the pirates are all getting along. It's all good. It's all peachy.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't so much that they're all getting along, but at the very least, most of the pirate clans sort of understood that there is still a status quo to keep, and the one that didn't is one that was doing stuff that was not in Limsa's, or at least, I mean, they were doing something that was outside of the bounds of Limsa's rule, or something that was close to. They were still trying to feign, hey, we haven't broken any rules, kind of thing. But it took the older, more experienced person, and someone who's definitely very unexpected to stand up for Merlwyb in particular. So that was I loved that, going back to 5.4, how they really pushed Merlwyb forward, because since what was it 2.1 when Y'shtola approached her about her status quo with the Beast Tribes, I think it was
2.2
2.2 with Leviathan.
After Leviathan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think they're ready to tackle this idea next. Pretty much we've seen the political discourse in Ul'dah, we've seen the political discourse in Limsa, and we understand the political status quo of Gridania. So, and not to mention through Ala Mhigo is basically like, hey, Lys, what are you doing? Go get Raubahn. Come on. We're getting the crew back together. Come on now.
Basically.
But I think Ul'dah is still the kettle that is ready to burst.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely. A couple of patches ago, I would have thought that Limsa would have some trouble, but yeah, I think it always comes back to Ul'dah, doesn't it? It's always where we land back on in Eorzea anyway.
Yep.
So we get this brief little tangent, I suppose, where Alphinaud wants us to go and speak to previous members of the Crystal Braves, because he's been working on this thesis, basically dissecting what happened, why it failed, what are the key learnings, and how can we sort of like take that to do better with this United Eorzean Grant Company, right? So we actually go and speak to, who do we speak to? We speak to Alian and Real, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Budget Thancred. Yeah.
Not wrong. Not incorrect in any way.
Yeah, I can't disagree. Can't disagree.
And their assessment basically comes down to what was obvious, like even during 2.3 and 2.4 to us, is that there was absolutely no vetting process whatsoever. It was just like, hey, who wants to join? You? Okay, cool. Like, we didn't care whether they were interested in the money or whether they had their own political agenda, who they might have been working for before, where their allegiances lied. We were just like, no, it's United. We take everybody. And me, Alphinaud, I'm so charismatic and I'm so intelligent that I'll just be able to convince them and unite them and align them to my philosophy. Which was obviously incredibly naive and moronic. But Alian and Riol also realized, even when it fell apart, that the idealism of the Scions was genuine. And that's why they basically decided to stay on board, because they saw what it could have been. And they maintained their sort of faith in that vision and in that ideal. So this was basically just like a big kind of walk through Alphinaud's catharsis, right?
Yeah,
which I think was nice.
I think it starts that way, but he's pretty much just, I don't want to say he reverts so much as he is lamenting over his past self to the point where he basically is worthless for a couple, at least in terms of any sort of emotional investment or opinion. He's just so self-doubting that, he's got that imposter syndrome. He's like a Twitch streamer. He's just got that imposter syndrome.
Right.
All up in his face, just like, oh, what an idiot, man.
God damn it.
I think a lot of this is about him overcoming that, right? And him coming to realize how much he has grown and how much he has learned since A Realm Reborn, and coming to terms with all right, well, maybe it's ready. Maybe I've been, sitting down for long enough that it's time for me to step up again,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe. I always get a little bit concerned when we're hanging out with the B team, right? Because I know they're going to throw a lot of people under the bus in Walker, and I don't know whether,
like who?
I don't know if Ishikawa like has the guts to do it to one of the main cast members, is what I'm saying.
But the B team, they're up for.
But the B team, exactly. Yeah.
Again, like who?
I mean, one of them's already half gone.
One of them got off. One of them got off easy. Arenfold got off easy. You know.
Yeah, until he gets a little too headstrong and decides to, find his own way.
Possible, right?
I'm waiting for him to have Sid make him like robotic legs, like in Civil War, for Captain America with Rhodey. Mm-hmm. It's gonna be. Granted, I've been waiting for the gun arm on Raubon for years, so I'm just gonna keep assuming Sid's gonna make prosthetics to fix people. That's all I'm gonna keep assuming.
See, what I was thinking is that Arenfold was basically going to take Minfilia's role and become far more of like a literal Charles Xavier. Well, I just think, like, I've been saying for years that like Minfilia was the Charles Xavier of the Scions, right? And now we've got someone who's literally got like Charles Xavier's backstory, pretty much, at this point.
And it's funny you say that, because like we have the Scions, we have the X-Men, and now we have this whole primal extermination squad, which is X-Force. Yeah. So I like the similarity. Yeah.
And now,
the Scions, particularly like the Path of the 12, particularly, were basically the X-Men. They were declared by Gaius, who was basically pressuring the Eorzean city-states. He told them, like, okay, the beast tribes, the beast tribes, these people that we had heretofore considered just different types of people. He was like, no, these are beast tribes. They are different because they can summon primals. And you need to excommunicate them. You need to kick them out of your cities. They are no good. They are animals. And the Eorzeans were like, well, shit, we're not ready for a war with Garlemald, so we're going to acquiesce to that. Okay? Then Gaius was like, now these people that have the Echo, they are also basically beast tribes. They're basically the same. You need to get rid of them as well. They're no good. They're mutants, right? That's literally what it was. It was literally like the X-Men. They went underground in this, secret, a kind of institution, basically, where they were learning how to use their powers, and they were still trying to go out on missions to help protect and save the world. Like,
the Morlocks.
They were literally the X-Men. So, yeah, I think Arenfold's taking it a little bit literally, and he's going to step up.
Yeah, well, I gotta say he's got to upgrade. He's got to go buy like a house in like Shirogane or something, because the Waking Sands is nothing compared to Xavier's mansion.
Right.
I won't.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not
That's
Upper
true.
New York. Yeah.
That's true. I mean, the Rising Stones are pretty cool, but we could do better.
He will step up, just not literally. Thank you, chat.
That's bad.
Yeah, that is
Jesus.
Bad. There you go. We really walked into that one, huh?
Yeah, that's real bad. That's real bad.
Anyway. Take us away.
Yeah. And then we go and talk to the Sylphs, because the Sylphs were basically they were basically like a proxy between the civilized people and the base tribes. They were kind of the major players in the crystal trade back in like 1.x and kind of earlier in history. And obviously, like, that role has been a lot more difficult more recently, but Alphino is like, okay, well, as part of the structure of this United Grand Company, it would make sense that the people that already have like a long history of mediating should probably kind of move into that role again. So that's basically what happens there.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because this entire section still takes up, it's a pretty major portion, and we've had this discussion before where since 2.5, the splitting of the patches is far less of a logical thing and far more of a PR thing, and I felt that really hard here because this is a tangent that would have been nice to immediately follow the events of 5.5, like when we did them, but waiting several months to watch Alphinaud be depressed for 4 quests, see Aaron Volt in a wheelchair and fight a bunch of primals was a little weird as the final lead up to the next expansion.
Yes. And then we got to the first really, really juicy bit of the patch. We get a call back to Gridania because a Sharlayan envoy has showed up. And it's actually one of the members of their...
council.
Oh my goodness, their council.
The council.
No.
It's not, I mean, we call it the council. I mean, whenever they're speaking in quick term, they call them the council, but then it's called the forum.
Yes, the forum. Thank you. Yes, and it's none other than Fauchenot Levieux.
Fauchenot Levieux.
Which is a name that we've known since the very first Tales from the Calamity, which was back in 2.3. It's a face that we've known since the first Encyclopedia Eorzea, but we'd never met him before now.
It was unavoidable given where we're going, in a sense. No matter what, you had to figure it would circle back to meeting him at some point. We speculated for a little bit that we would be going to Sharlayan, and if we did, you were the first person to say, like, we have to meet the twins' parents. And we got half of them so far.
Yeah, so Fauchenot, for those who are unaware, he was basically the major proponent for the Sharlayan exodus from Eorzea. He is very much like classic Sharlayan policy of non-intervention. We are just the observers of history. We just hang out here on our island and, watch the world go by. Fauchenot does not believe that this is the final days. And he believes that with such, absolute confidence.
He says if it was, we would know.
Exactly. He says if it was, we would know. I take that literally.
Yeah. I do as well.
A major theme in Sharlayan and all the kind of Sharlayan philosophy and the Sharlayan politics that we've kind of been subjected to, that we throughout the game, has had this theme of prophecy, right? Of prophecy and of prediction. That's what astrologian's all about. That's why Urianger switched to astrologian when he was in this strange land, is because he wanted to be able to have the ability to sort of make these predictions. Since the very, very beginning of the game, we've been getting all these esoteric references to the 5 Ages by Lufon the Sage. The Gerun Oracles is a big one. Basically, they've got these ancient texts that were like, all right, here's everything that's going to happen for the next 5,000 years. And they've been esoteric, and they've required expert interpretation. But with correct interpretation, they have come to be true, right? Everything that the Gerun Oracles has written has come to pass. And within Sharlayan, we got some in Heaven's Ward, we got this idea that not everyone believed in kind of taking these so literally, in kind of looking at them so strictly. Urianger's PhD, his Archon thesis was on prophecy. We obviously had Elidibus bringing Urianger down into the library and showing him the Gurun oracles and being like, here it is, baby. And Alize kind of like spying on that. The Sharlians believe that history has been written. What they don't know is that Graha changed it. Yeah. Yes. What the Sharlians think is coming, and look at the time, it seems like it's slightly overdue, is the 8th Umbral Calamity, right? Where Garlemald collapses because of Black Rose. Eorzea is decimated. The world is basically sent back to the Stone Age. But you know what? The Sharlians, they're fine because they knew it was coming and they were prepared and they had their little bunker that they could sit out until the dust settles and then they could come back up above ground and everything would be peachy, right? So Fortuno is just here like looking at his pocket watch being like, it's not, I've got it right here. It's not the final days. This is the 8th calamity. It'll be coming in a moment. You kids should probably stop playing around and come home because it's about to get pretty bad, but nowhere near as fucking bad as you're saying. The final days, what the hell are you talking about? He doesn't realize that we're on a completely different timeline now. And that's the problem that we're facing, right? Is that Elidibus is not supposed to be dead. Emmett Selk's not supposed to be dead. Xenos is supposed to be dead. And we and most of the Scions are supposed to be dead. We've messed it up in kind of changing that timeline and giving power to Xenos and power to Fandaniel. We have allowed, again, a completely different timeline to take place. So that's where Fortuno's coming from, as far as I'm concerned. I think that's what we're going to discover pretty soon. Sly's got something to say.
Sure does.
The simple bet would be that, and like, who knows what we're going to do without the Rendil, but the simple bet for me would be that there's an Ascian
on the moon.
There's an Ascian on the forum?
In the forum?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, I just assume there's Ascians everywhere.
Seen...
Even with the main one's dead, I just assume there's Ascians everywhere.
I mean, Emmett Selk, the head of Garlemald himself, like, we've seen crazier things. So, like, either at one point in time, I thought, and again, this was so like tinfoil, like crazy. I thought Rambros could have been an Ascian in the Circle of Knowing. Like, yeah, that was like crazy shit I was thinking back in the day.
Okay,
but yeah, with what you said, and there has to at least an Ascian.
So I don't necessarily think that there's an Ascian on the forum, though, Sly. But I do take note of Sharlayan being called the Old World, of the area being called the Old World, and
we're really pissing off Moose right now. I just want to say it. I just think that
you mean Sly.
Moose's the logarithmic spiral is Moose's pet peeve, and I'm partially responsible for this because in Academia Oneida, was it? Yeah, it was Academia, not in Nemesis. Yeah, in Academia Oneida, in the final boss arena, we see that relief at the end. We see all the statues of Zodiac around, right? And we learn in there that basically La Habrea designed Zodiac. Basically was the architect, the engineer for Zodiac. But we also see a logarithmic spiral there. And I was immediately like, because going through this dungeon, going through Amarot, I was like, man, this architecture, it obviously is inspired. It's taken from the same real world inspirations, the same Hellenic inspirations as Sharlayan. But what if it was more like, kind of like, Hellenic architecture is referring to architecture that is modeled after Greece, right? Mm-hmm. What if Amarot was Greece? And what if Hellenic architecture is architecture that is inspired by Amarot? And how could anyone with architecture inspired by Amarot know anything about Amarot when no one knows anything about Amarot, right? So the gears were immediately turning for me in 5.0 of like, okay, so maybe Sharlayan was another one of Emmett's experiments, the way that he set up Garlemald, the way that he set up Alec, where he was like, okay, we got all these calamities where we're basically decimating the world, but at one point, this world needs to be prepared for our return. And we don't want it to be in the Stone Age when that happens. We want to be able to preserve some of this knowledge. We want to be able to preserve some stuff from the ancient world, but also a lot of the stuff that's being kind of created since, and we got to put it somewhere. And what if we create a foundation, an archetype, a blueprint for a new Amarot that basically once we come back, we can just like move into and take over, you know? And maybe Sharlayan was founded by an Ascian. Maybe Neonkreph was Emmett or another Ascian, right?
I mean,
but maybe at the very least, maybe at the very least, they've been in communication.
Yeah,
I mean, they did just go downstairs and Sharlayan and like, hey, yeah, you know this book? I know all about this book. You know this book?
Yeah.
Look at this book, Jay.
Yeah. So yeah, well, exactly, right. So like maybe they had this kind of non-intervention agreement with Elidibus the whole time. I know, again, Moose is going to hate me for kind of stoking this fire more, but
why does he hate it?
It's too much to ignore.
It's fun. Why would he hate fun?
Yeah.
He hates... No, he doesn't hate fun. He loves fun. He loves speculating, but I know that Moose and I both get really, really frustrated when people conflate speculation and headcanon with being like self-evidently true. Like there are so many people that are like, this is confirmed. And that's bullshit. It's not.
But there is a lot of context.
It's too compelling to ignore.
What's the line?
All I'm saying is we still do have unaccounted Ascians in the form of Humroot and Dudolph.
Mm-hmm. There's also
just throwing it out there.
There's also what's her face? The one that looks like lightning.
That's Mariloth?
Is that a Mariloth? No, I think there's
Mariloth, I think. Yeah, Pastero, I think that's Pastero, isn't it?
Pasterat.
There you
Pasterat,
go. Yeah. A Mariloth and okay. So we still got a few. And obviously we've been kind of tying ends with Ascians, again going back to Eden, getting to tie up Mitron and Logriff was a big thing. I guess my only question is, in form of the Garun, the Garun oracles, and I guess the other books that foretell the future. Are there any? What happened? What?
Oh, no, I was just saying. Mariloth. I'm pretty sure Mariloth was the one in Eureka.
Yeah. You're right. Which one of them would have been closest to... Do we know enough about all of the seats and what they were in charge of? Like, we know La Brea, Elidibus, Emmett, like what they were... Because I'm wondering if any of them... Because we know that Logriff had all the timey-wimey shenanigans, so I'm wondering if she would have been the one who would have, wrote something like the Garun Oracle's been able to look through time or anything like that.
We need a...
Yeah. Again,
we need another Anator. We need another.
I'm sure there's more. I'm willing to bet there's one on the source that we don't know about somewhere, and I have a feeling it would be in proximity to Sharlayan, given the old world.
Well, yeah, we got a lot of. I mean, we see it in the trailer, right? Like, that seems to be the Garun oracles that Graha's reading.
Yeah,
where he's like, okay, here we go. So there's definitely stuff there, and of course we know there's stuff on the moon.
Yeah, there's stuff on the moon. I mean, we literally see creation. What are they called? The ones that we see.
Creation.
What's the word I'm looking for?
Magic containers.
The containers.
Oh god.
They just look like fucking containers.
Concepts. There you go.
Concepts.
Yeah, we see creation concepts on the moon too. So there's definitely. I mean, I'm sure that's going to be one of the biggest parts of the moon is. There's some sort of history there that is akin to what we would discover in one of the Anators, but the question is
100%.
The question is, what do we learn? Because even looking in the I have to assume that Graha is reading the Garun oracles for the first time in the trailer, because if not, he's reading one of the other books in the same vein.
Yeah, so Graha was a student of Baldesion.
Yeah.
So he didn't spend much time in Sharlayan proper, as far as we know, as far as we can tell. Which is one of the reasons why a lot of the Sharlians that did grow up in Sharlayan proper didn't already like know him quite well. We know it's why no one really recognized him in Shadowbringers, except for Rianger, obviously.
Gee, I wonder why. Yeah.
But if Kryle had been there, well, I mean, also Kryle is like looking down like up into the hood. She would have been like, "Hey, Graha," immediately.
Yeah. I just, man, all the little details.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm excited because, again, we have to really start bringing up questions like this because of all the threads they seem to want to close going into 6.0 so they can start over in 6.1. So I think now we've got political discourse in 6.1 and on, and wrapping up. So maybe write our own Garen. Maybe we just burn that damn book at this point.
Maybe.
Yeah. That shit ain't doing
I mean, might as well at this point, right?
Yeah, it's pretty much worthless.
Yeah, so Fulshino disowns Arfano and Alizé, which is just as well because Asher is a lot easier to spell than Levier.
Are you adopting the twins?
Yeah.
It's nice of
Aren't
you to
you?
do right before they die, so they can at least have a last name before they die.
Do you want to put money on this, bro?
Well, the thing is, that depends on the context of the bet, because if it's that they will turn to stone but not die, then yes, I am willing to put the money on it. Die? No.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It's okay.
Okay, so we're all kind of salty and mad at Fulshino. And then we get a call from Kryle being like, "Hey, I'm in Sharlayan, and obviously these guys are up to something. I'm gonna make sure that you guys have got diplomatic passports and get your butt over here."
How in the fuck is she gonna get that? Because the only thing that makes sense to me is we're getting them under the hand and underhanded in Thavnair. That's the only thing I could think of it.
Maybe
because what fucking way they're not gonna look at us and be like, "Oh, them? Yeah, sure."
So the students of Baldesion, knowing what we know about them now and what they were protecting and the knowledge that they were protecting and the work that they were doing, it seems that they have like pretty sweeping I guess like discretionary powers over the forum. And Král and Graha, the only two of the students. Well, no, actually, that's not true. We've got Rambros and a couple of. Anyway, most of them are dead. But Král was basically the inheritor of like the leadership of the students of Baldesion, right? She was Galuf's adopted granddaughter and was, presumably in a very, very sort of, senior position there. So she's a big deal. And it seems like she can kind of subvert the forum in certain ways regarding, access, at least. The problem is that, as we know, that if someone does that, if someone does subvert the forum, publicly they'll be like, "Oh yes, of course, we're all very like democratic and our citizens can do whatever the hell they want. We're not going to stop them," and then send like assassins after them, like they did for the astrologians, right?
Yeah, we've got precedent for that.
We do have precedent for that, which is going to be quite interesting. So we know we're after Sharlayan. And then suddenly we get a call that, I don't want to skip over Arenvold. Arenvold's in a wheelchair. Anyone got much to say about that?
I thought you already said everything.
We already went we already went the X-Men route.
If you think about it, it's really fucked up that his two choices right now are the Waking Sands and the Rising Stones. Not the Walking.
You really want to make walking jokes so bad.
I mean, to be fair, we could always go to the Falling Snow. I guess that works too. We have that too.
That's true. Yeah.
Why do I do this show?
Terrible. Oh, and he's like, "Oh, my life is over," and $4 like, "Shut up, bitch."
Pretty much. He's like, "I guess I can retire," and she's like, Retire? There's a whole... Bro, there's more expansions coming out. You can't retire. I won't allow it.
They're gonna make babies.
As long as that part of the lower half of them still works.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I mean, it's not always... It can. You know, it depends on where the damage is.
Look, they've got all kinds of, like, you know, medications and special pumps and...
Yeah. If he goes to the right housing ward at the right time of the week, I'm sure he can find some help. I've seen the Party Finder.
Wow.
That's true. They'll help him out.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, then we get a call being like, hey, Fandaniel's been sighted and the Telophoroi are like going for Cardno for some reason.
This felt like kind of weird that this all of a sudden... So I'm sure this will be explained later. But this whole event and why it transpires is really just kind of out of... It was explained. It's explained, but it's also just like... Just, that's it? We do A, B, and they do A, and that's it. Okay, I guess let's get to it.
This was definitely a case of Yoshida or someone else making a decision that they wanted Shadowbringers to end at Cardano, that they wanted this kind of, you know, parabolic structure, right? Aesthetically, at least. And the writers were like, okay, well, we got to justify that somehow. And the justification was that basically, there's a lot of ether, and they wanted to redirect it to their big bad tower. So kind of like what we do in Bozja, right? Where we're kind of redirecting ether currents. That's basically
so that way we can actually we can move the front up. Yeah. And then either Y'shtola or Yanxie is like, oh well, you know, maybe that's why they the Alligans kept Omega here to kind of be able to, like, you know, keep him powered because there was a bunch of ether here. Or maybe there's a bunch of ether there because Omega was there. Like, we don't know. But what I wonder is, well, we saw what happened when, like, a ship fell into Silvertier, because Silvertier is, you know, a huge, like, well, the sort of ethereal heart of the planet. We're talking about Cardno as if it's like something quite similar. How did the planet not just completely blow up when Dalamud came down, if that's the case? Thank you, Louis.
This is what I want to know. Well, yeah, right. Yeah.
Thank you. Because he would not. He's like, listen, realistically, that hits the planet. And he's like, this hits the planet, it's done. It's literally, and again, he goes Dragon Ball Z and he's like, I won't let you destroy this world! And then he just goes up.
You know, like, retroactively, I mean, obviously this isn't something that they were kind of planning at the time or writing at the time, but retroactively we can justify it that Nail, well, you know, Bahamut presumably, but Nail was, like, very specifically bringing Dalamud down onto Cardno to sort of maximize the damage done to Eorzea. And if it is a major ethereal ley line, it's like, okay, if we brought it down on Mordona, we would destroy the planet. But if we bring it down Cardno, we won't destroy the planet, but we'll certainly destroy Eorzea.
Yeah,
right?
And it makes sense that Bahamut would actually be quite... He'd know that. Even as a primal, he'd probably know that, given his age.
Yeah,
so, given that he is a very clever dragon throughout the coils, I wouldn't put it past him to figure that out. So, but yeah, I think they mention Omega in there. I don't remember if it's remnants of him, but it just feels like, I guess it's a few different things. It's a clever dragon, though. It's a clever dragon.
Clever girl. Yeah, so then we go off to fight the Telophoroi, don't we?
Yeah, this whole scene was just, I don't know, this scene was just weird to me. It's just all of a sudden we're just fighting primals and then it's over. Like, it's explained at the beginning, it's explained at the end, but it just kind of all moves at, like, lightning pace and then it's over.
It really feels like, and this is what I've been saying, right? Ever since we had this tempering solution, it's really fucked with the stakes, right? Suddenly, like, primals are not really an existential threat, and tempering isn't a death sentence. It's something that we can just kind of fix. So the Scions are like, oh, well, actually, we know that these lunar primals, they don't temper, because they are tempered, basically.
Yeah.
They
the towers are what
they don't do any tempering
not the primals.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, you know, same thing, right? We're fighting all of these tempered beastmen and some tempered Imperials and whatever. Apparently, you know, very few like Imperial soldiers were actually on the field, so there was really like no loss for Fandaniel or for the Garleans in general. But yeah, we fight several lunar primals, and we kind of have explanations for how they work, right? It's kind of like Neuralinks, right? Where you capture these beastmen and you force them to summon the primal, and the primal's bound to, you know, the tower or whatever's controlling the tower, right? So we have no trouble sort of explaining Ifrit and explaining Ravana. The challenging one's Odin.
Yeah.
Right? Because Odin worked different. Odin's a Eureka weapon. Zantetsuken is a Eureka weapon. And the only thing that I could think of is that
one of the towers,
whoever's wielding Zantetsuken, whoever's wielding, and the influence of the tower therefore has to be greater than the influence of Zantetsuken, which is kind of interesting. So in the same way that like Xenos and Shinryu were having this kind of like arm wrestle to see who could take control of that body, it seems like Zantetsuken and the tower have also had an arm wrestle to see who can control Odin, basically, is what I'm guessing.
I mean, your guess is as good as mine here, because like they literally could have just gone with like Garuda or like there's so many other options that would have been safe bets, easy to explain bets, but they went with Odin, and I don't know if that's because he's cool and that's it.
Yeah, of course. It's because, well, he hasn't been in the MSQ yet, and also it's just like the cinematic impact of you know the sort of climax of this like last chapter of Shadowbringers, right? It was definitely something that was decided from like a design perspective before it was justified from a lore perspective. But obviously they had confidence that they could justify it, and I think it's as simple as that, right? Like it's not.
Yeah.
Explain, Oda.
Anyway.
That's all I know. Please explain, Oda-san.
Lame Oda. Yeah. Oda's on thin fucking ice at the moment, let me tell you.
What is that? Oh, because there's no third Eorzean encyclopedia.
Yeah.
Well, there's no third Encyclopedia Eorzea, and he done retcons Merwood stuff. I mean, it wasn't like a big deal, but
you mean the Tales of Twilight?
Yeah, he's been real cheeky.
That's what happens when you've got 11 years of story behind you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, more than 11, right? Technically 13.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, we do that, and Fandaniel's like, well, heck.
Well,
all right.
Oh, shucks.
Honestly, he kind of does react that way. He's just like,
yeah.
All right, I guess this didn't work. We'll see you later.
Yeah. Yes. He says, I'm beginning to see why Lord Xenos thinks so highly of you. Not that this changes anything, you understand. You've merely earned yourself a stay of execution. Yeah. And as he explains, or what we can extract from what he explains anyway, it seems that he was hoping to redirect Ether from Eorzea towards the tower and quicken, his plans to open the gateway of the gods. We got to have a way to reach Zodiac, and I guess we might as well give it a dramatic name, right?
I mean, I've got a better name for it if I'm willing to make I mean, I've been predicting what that tower is called for ages. because of all the Final Fantasy IV references. It's one of two. There's in Final Fantasy IV, there's the Tower of Zot and the Tower of Babel. And I'd be willing to bet that that's the Tower of Babel that is the gateway to the gods. So.
Yeah, that's fair.
It just doesn't, what else is it going to be? Like, come on now. You can't tell me with all the Final Fantasy IV stuff that we're seeing in, like, the trailers and the live letter and everything. Come on now.
I think it's likely that the Ascians were going to have to do something like this once the world was rejoined, right? Is that they were going to have to redirect, they were rejoining it so that there was enough ether to bring back Zodiac, right? And that they were going to have to redirect all that ether up to him to reconnect him to the live stream so that he could wake up. And then he could bring back all of the ancients whose components were now all in the source because the source was rebuilt. Fandaniel doesn't give a shit about the ancients and bringing the ancients back, so he doesn't need the source to be rebuilt, but he does need enough power to bring Zodiac online. I think that's basically the conceit of what's happening, right?
That was my assessment, and I suspect. Well, the only thing that's kind of weird because so in that final scene with Fandaniel and Xenos that we've jumped a little bit ahead to after the end of Cart Note, because the end of Cart Note, they go, "We did it. Mm-hmm. We did what we could," and look, the moon. That's pretty much.
Oh, there's a moon.
That's pretty much
the moon, though.
That's pretty much. And cue Shadowbringer's theme. Is that they talk about the Dreamer, and he asks if the Dreamer wouldn't mind lending some ether. And I'm like, the Dreamer? And I was like, one of three things come to mind. Because obviously that's not Zodiac in this case. Because Zodiac wouldn't redirect his own ether to himself when he already has it. So then the other is Xenos' Void Scent for his Reaper. It's like one of the other things that like the Void Scent that he's like pacted to or something is some sort of like incredibly high tier Void Scent from the 13th. Or Anima was the other. Or maybe Anima is his Void Scent. Who knows?
I think they just might be talking about Xenos in the third person, honestly. Like he so
yeah, I know.
He has been dreaming his whole life of Amarot burning.
Yeah.
And the more powerful that he has become, the deeper he has dreamed.
So you think it's just the ether he's gotten from killing everyone that he's been collecting, he's just sparing?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. As he's gotten the resonant and whatever else, Solace did to him when he was a young warthog, has caused him to have more, come sort of closer to being an ancient, and dream deeper. And Fandaniel, okay, here's the line.
Hotspot may have died. Yeah.
Damn.
Here's the line. Cut.
Nothing.
Stop him. Stop him right now.
But Haps, I kind of went along with you in the whole.
We can hear you.
Oh, he's back. He's back. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, sorry. What was the last thing I said?
You said, "Here's the line."
And here's the line.
And then it stopped.
You know what happened? My phone just died. So I'm back on my shitty Wi-Fi.
Oh my god.
So give us a moment there. I'm plugging
so you lost the hotspot.
Plugging it in. I'll have the hotspot back up in a second. Okay. Here's the line. Fandaniel says, which does, of course, raise the question of where we are going to procure the requisite amount. The obvious solution would be to draw on resources a little closer to home, which can't be Zodiac, because Zodiac's as far away from home as you can possibly get.
Yeah.
Though that would require our dreamer to dream a trifle more deeply. And Xenos says, so be it, the dreamer will not complain. I think that Xenos is speaking in the third person.
What a fucking loser.
I think... So what Reaper does, the reason he's switched over to Reaper, is because Reaper is basically a human animal weapon. There's one way to think of it. That's the easiest way to think of it. Another way to think of it is being like the Nightkin that we encounter in the Red Mage quests. Right?
Yeah.
Where you are killing things, you are reaping them, and you are absorbing their anima to power In our cases, Reaper, to power up our Void Set, to feed our Void Set, because that's what our Void Set needs to, live and to remain in our world, right? I think in Xenos' case, I don't think he has a Void Set. I think he's powering himself up because he knows that he has to do that in order to take control of Zodiac, in order to be powerful enough to do to Zodiac what he did to Shinri. So he's going around reaping, powering himself up, so that he can engorge himself on a well of souls. And Fandaniel's like, I just gotta borrow a little bit of that real quick. Just like, let me take maybe like a cup of blood. And Xenos is like, fine. That's the way I interpret that scene.
The only other thing I thought, which again is a definite far cry, but kind of piggybacking what Haps thought, I thought about the Dream of the Faith.
Yeah.
Because remember, Cidus was, in fact, a dream.
Yeah.
Himself. So.
Yeah. But he wasn't the dreamer. He was
he wasn't the dreamer. He was the dream. Yeah.
But Anima was a dreamer, and people have been noticing that and wondering about that.
Yep. That's one of the main reasons
I've used 50% of my included data.
I do wonder if Anima is some sort of manifestation of the ether that Xenos has collected, though. That's in some way possible, but I think you're still there. He's just trying to get his hotspot working again. He's trying to turn his phone on.
Yeah.
No, I got an email from TPG saying that I'd used like 80% of my data. We're just gonna have to put up with shitty Wi-Fi.
That did not take. I told you. You were like, it's just a Discord call, and I'm like,
that's all right. We got through most of the show.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think a Discord call would take like 15 gigabytes.
Yeah, but it's Discord, so.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another that like you said, with Anima being a dreamer, being one of the dreamers, that was one of the big things that were going off of there. That's why I don't know. I think it'd be kind of fucking loser talks about themselves in the third person.
He's very dramatic. Xenos is very dramatic. And so is Fandaniel. These guys are so extra, right?
Yeah.
So that's my great explanation. That's my guess.
Who knows, right?
Right.
But that's my guess. And then, of course, Y'shtola is like, hey, something weird going on in the Silver Tier. And we investigate that, and we see what can only be one person. As far as I'm concerned, it can only be Venar.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if that's
only be Venar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the question is, of course, well, why haven't we seen Venar before now? We know that Heidelin has basically a non-intervention policy. She's kind of like the Sharlians in that way, but more because to intervene is to take ether away from the planet. And that's no bueno. It's the final days, like this is it's now or never, right? This is the last chance.
I believe Estinian says it's all or nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So it could also have something to do with like what's going on with the towers. Maybe that's allowed her to kind of
manifest,
project herself, manifest herself. Yeah.
Yeah. The big thing that they
doesn't have the word of the mother.
The big thing that we also pull from that scene is they figure out why they can't cut the towers energy off, like what's actually being siphoned, and they've now seen that basically the planet is being, all the ether on the planet's being removed. It's being sucked dry. It's being pulled towards the towers. However, we have a fucking solution for that it seems none of them remember. They're like, I don't know what to do, and I'm like, what? We have the fucking thing we used against Alexander. It didn't work, but that was for a different reason. I was upset.
I mean, that would be challenging.
What are you going to be challenging? We literally just put up a fucking membrane around Alexander. It was supposed to stop him from taking ether from the land around him, and it only didn't work because he has a staff that maybe shittier Fandaniel gave to him, because we still don't know about Travanchet and whether or not he was actually Fandaniel in the first place. That's a theory that's been going around.
Okay, so how are you going to put a membrane around that tower? Because that tower is a little bit bigger than Alexander.
No, Alexander looks smaller because he's got the world map syndrome. Remember that. World map syndrome makes things look smaller than they are, but in cutscenes, whenever we're like actually like in the raids, he's like 8 billion times bigger.
Yeah, I think that might be a little bit of kind of TARDIS magic.
It's the end of the world! Are you going to say it's too much effort?
Much work.
I don't know about that. That might take I don't know. I got like shit to do Saturday. Like it's my kid's bar mitzvah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Come on now.
Yeah, I mean that is a good question. I would just have to imagine that like Fandaniel would thwart any of those efforts, given that you'd have to get very, very close to Garlemald. And who knows? Maybe we're going to try to do something like that. Maybe that's part of the reason why we're pushing into Garlemald.
Gonna lay all the Arc Anima membrane down.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like the sort of main act of Endwalker is going to be us basically doing to the towers what we were doing to the Light Wardens, right? Going around, taking them all out, so that we can, move into Garlemald and deal with the big one, right?
The big one.
Yeah.
One would hope.
Maybe we just have to do that first,
I'm just saying. The fact that this hasn't been brought up. I'm amazed it literally only ever popped up in Alexander. Not that we've had very many reasons to use it, but it's still. And Matoya knows all about it. We need to give Matoya something to do. So, let's just get to that. That's Ishtola, Matoya, get to it. You'll be all right. Do Alexander, everyone. Or watch my video on youtube.com/Zayador1227. I'm just saying.
Let's I think that's basically it for the MSQ, right?
Yeah. Again, we had to extrapolate a lot from it, but it is mostly please see you in November kind of mentality from that one.
Pretty much.
I would like to say real quick, as chat has brought up though, the benchmark. Now we don't really get any direct lore, and they usually conflate things in the benchmark, but that doesn't stop the Omega bot from being in that. And we were told we should probably do Omega before we see this. I can't imagine that has any sort of continuity with the Stormblood raids, but it's more likely that Fandaniel or Xenos or the Talafroi have reverse engineered it based on information that they've acquired.
Yeah, exactly. I'm guessing it's like a Proto-Omega in the same way that we've been fighting a whole bunch of Proto-Ultimas, in the same way that all of the weapons are basically Proto-Ultimates, right? They're reversed engineered Ultima weapons with various accessories. And I think that they've just done the same thing with Omega. That's my guess. I'm sure it's going to be like a little bit more kind of nuanced and interesting than that, but that's basically what it comes down to, I'm guessing.
That's my guess too. I mean, after finding out that after 200 years they reverse engineered Alexander, I think I can accept this, that the Talafroi could maybe figure this out after 5,000 years, or the Asians even. We shall see. I like chat's theory that that's the Babel giant equivalent that they've reverse engineered. I mean, to be fair, Omega's a starship.
Yeah.
So he is technically supposed to be able to traverse through space, so just saying. He didn't get to do it. Now he's just a crying little robot. What a bitch.
That's fair. That is fair.
But yeah, that covers MSQ. But that doesn't mean we're done. Oh boy.
No, we still got Bozja.
And before we even talk about Bozja, in terms of what actually happens there, because some pretty interesting things that I have a feeling we won't be done with. And I now am pretty sure we won't be done with. Let me make sure Ethys can hear me and is reconnected, because he definitely, his internet. Oh, wait, I see his thing lighting up. Might just be his camera.
I can hear you.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
no, I can hear you.
Okay,
I can hear you guys.
All right.
Yeah.
A lot of people, before we even talk about the contents of Bozja, have thought that this was completely done and that we would never explore this again, because Matsuno tweeted a few months ago that his involvement in Final Fantasy XIV was finished. But he just did an interview a couple days ago with Yoshi P, where he talks about a lot of the things he wanted to do, didn't want to do, and he talks about picking this up again at some point. He just basically didn't. He wants to do it after Dalmasca's been completely freed. That's when he wants to come back and be more involved. Is after Dalmasca's already taken care of. They're liberated. Their own state, and then continue any of the threads that are left off.
With that Twitter thread, a lot of people were reading between the lines and feeling that, getting the sense that he was like really salty because it seems like the story wasn't nearly as well received in Japan as it was for us, right? The thing that really bothered me is that like he basically wrote the next chapter, what would have been the next chapter, the next story arc, in a couple of logs that we just got at the end. And I really got the sense of like, okay, they were planning on having this arc, and then something happened where he stepped away or he was pulled away. I assume that you guys have read these final logs that I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, which we'll get into in a little bit, but yes.
Not yet.
Oh, I have. They're very, very important.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Weird. Really weird.
Funny thing to talk about that, Yoshida mentions that Matsuno wrote those field notes as is and were put into the game as is. So they didn't like change it. That's what Matsuno wrote for those in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. That's strange, isn't it?
I mean, in the interview, it's kind of explained why it's written that way, and Matsuno says it's written that way because he doesn't want to continue it until Dalmasca's liberated. So he wants to just let these threads sit, let Dalmasca get its freedom, and then bring it back into the forefront, is essentially.
You know what? I reckon he didn't want Ishikawa or anyone else picking it up. So he was like, I'm just going to like really nail it down. And we're going to be like, and then everyone died. The end. So that no one else can touch it. No one else can like move the story into a different direction other than what he specifically wanted.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really interesting things that comes out of Matsuno. He said he didn't really have much say over this content, nearly as much influence here as he did in Return to Ivalice. But he had all sorts of things that he envisioned for it. He wanted Save the Queen itself to be a Final Fantasy XII collaboration, not its own kind of story that was a follow-up to the Return to Ivalice story. He wanted it set in Dalmasca, but he's like, I don't know. I was like, listen, I don't run this game. I don't get to choose how this content works. They just present me with an idea, a concept. Like, he wanted Odin. He wanted Odin to be like the possession with the sword, similar to the way that we see, because he says the sword essentially works in a similar way, but it's they didn't have to explain it
same way. Wait, yeah, it's another Eureka weapon. Yeah. I mean, as we kind of immediately sort of construed, the sword is a Eureka weapon. It's the same type of entity as Zantetsuken.
Yeah, I mean, there's I mean, even that. Definitely. My favorite is here. He said the original concept for Save the Queen was to use Tartarus to be sent back to the past before Bozja was destroyed, and to have it take place there. That was the original plan, was to use Tartarus for that. Which actually, in a way, explains what Tartarus does. Which was a question we had that went unanswered.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, the answer we got from Tartarus really was that it's a weapon. You know, it's a really powerful weapon.
Pretty much.
Blow shit up real good.
Yeah, there's oh my God, this was such a great read. If you guys haven't seen the Reddit translation of the Famitsu interview with those two, it is very enlightening after you finish Bozja, and it also it does have that promise of the future. He even says Matsuno even asks Yoshida, he's like, so Beastmaster, right? And Yoshida's like, is that why you put Lion in the game? So you could ask me for Beastmaster? Is that because you wrote him? We didn't make you do that. You did that. And Matsuno's just like, just gives him a look like.
And then Matsuno not knowing there was a cure for tempering happening in the story. Like, yeah, we could have, from Masisha, we could have actually done something. And Matsuno, no.
That's it.
No.
It's
well,
so funny.
The timing there was critical, right? Is that we only come up with that solution after it was already too late for most of the blades. But also we got the kind of extrapolation on that the cure doesn't work when people are so far gone that they've affected a physical transformation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think still maintain some stakes, which is good, I think.
Yeah, I think Lovro is the only one they said that was possible.
Lorvo.
Yeah, Lorvo is the only one that was possible to save.
I think he was the only one they saved,
Yeah. So,
woof.
Yeah, because they do make mention to some of these things in the side quests after you've discovered the cure. Like I think in the 5.5 unlock quest, it's mentioned that something like this is discovered. So it's I loved reading through this. This was such a good read. But the things like he wanted this to be Matsuno's Stormblood. Like this. Listen to this paragraph. Matsuno wanted Fordola executed when Raoban was to take the future of Ala Mhigo. Yoshi talked about how Baisai-jin was the kind of character only Matsuno would write, someone with a lot of resentment against the Empire, puts them aside seeking to find an easier and faster way to end the war. Lion and Baisai-jin were Yoshida's two favorite characters. Yoshida said the content made justice to the parts of Stormblood that they couldn't at the time. It was Yoshida that wanted to have two stories, this and Whirlit, that focused on different factions of the Empire. So...
yeah.
I mean, we've been saying that despite Shadowbringers,
I think they did that though.
Yeah, they did, because like despite Shadowbringers being a lot about kind of setting up Endwalker and the Ascians and everything, all of our side content dealt with factions in some. Well, I mean, not all of it, obviously not Eden, but a lot of our side content dealt with what felt like the sequel to Stormblood, essentially.
Yeah, and I think it was all really, really good, really. Like excellent way to deal with it. I think it was strange that it wasn't dealt with primarily through the MSQ, but I also think that like if we dealt with the Empire purely through the MSQ, it would have felt like too quick and too easy. You know,
right?
I think we needed something like Bozja. Yeah, it's interesting that you say that he wanted it to take place in Dalmasca because I definitely get that sense from Zadnor that like it wanted to be going back to Dalmasca.
Yeah, because setting up from the southern front, actually after Delubrum, after they lose the Citadel, I mean, essentially
they're talking about Dalmasca, yeah.
Yeah, because they're talking about going back to, retreating back to...
Valnain.
Yeah, there you go, Valnain. And then that they were amassing something in Dalmasca, but it just never worked out that way. That was essentially what would have happened if we didn't intervene in Zadnor, basically.
Yeah, I was convinced that rather than Zadnor, that we were going to be going back to Dalmasca and fighting a front in Dalmasca.
Yeah. Oh man,
that is quite interesting. But yeah, we push up to Zadnor. Zadnor is really interesting as a zone, just like geographically and etherically, right? It had never recovered from the third calamity, right? And all the earthquakes and stuff, massively over aspected to Earth ether. So as a result, in more recent times, it was mined to shit for Earth crystals, because you know any kind of like crystals are really outside of Eorzea are like prohibitively kind of difficult to procure, and as a result of that, the ether became very sort of thin. Have I disconnected?
No.
Nope.
I just see you guys sitting still, and I'm like,
we're letting you talk.
We're listening.
I know it's a rarity, but come on now.
I know Mike hadn't interrupted anyone for like 10
seconds. I know,
seconds.
dude. I get so excited. That's why I just did it right there.
yeah, so the ether had gotten very thin there, where already all that was really left was earth ether, and once I started to remove that, it started becoming something like the burn or like the empty, right? And then it got blasted by the Bozja incident and got, massively like over aspected and towards astral, presumably. And that's why we've got all like the floating rocks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's getting smashed like constantly. Just can't get a break. But the Bozja incident also unearthed a whole bunch of Alcan ruins.
Of course,
which you
it
see
did.
In these little valleys all the way through.
Why not, right? Alligans. We've been saying it forever. Alligans. It's always Alligans.
Yeah. Always Alligans, baby. And Menenius. So Menenius studied, I believe, at the same academy that Sid and Nero did. But his area of study was archaeology, right? So he's a sort of I mean, it's kind of very flattering for it's very flattering for him, but he's kind of like a Garlean Dr. Jones, which I think is pretty cool. But he was sort of referring to having like discovered other things and uncovered other things during the last chapter in the Southern Front, right? And obviously we discover what that is here, and that's why they're in Zadnor. We need to redirect a little bit of ether that's around to be able to create these shields to protect us from the fire of their fleet as we move up to the Dalriada, and then we get in there in a major way. I think that's really like all that. Well, okay. So we've got some. I'm just going through here, trying to make sure I haven't missed any important bits. We've got Miko, right, having these visions of her falling out of the airship.
Yeah.
And this is really interesting to me, that Mikoto thinks the same way as Fourcheneau does. She's got that Sharlayan education where they think that prophecy is immutable, and that once you see the future, that's how it happens, right? I think for her, because of this attitude, it's like self-fulfilling, right? Because we can't reconcile this. Mikoto tells us, oh, well, what I see, everything that I see comes to pass. Like, history only has one line, and that is completely contradictory to everything that we know to be true as a result of Shadowbringers, right? So I'm pretty sure that, again, Mikoto just kind of like talks herself into it, right?
Pretty much, but
that it becomes self-fulfilling for her.
I can't even it's been wrong like 3 times now. It's not that it's wrong even. It's she sees it, it cuts off, and she goes, well, she just fills in the rest. She just fucking ad-libs the rest. She's just like, all right, so blank line, we lose or we win. And she's just like, well, this is what happens. I'm like, you didn't see yourself hit the ground. You don't know what happens.
Yeah. And also, and again, this is sort of speaking to her attitude, right? Is like, we know that parachutes exist in this world. We see paratroop
Mounts.
Gimlet.
Mount.
Yeah, or like seatbelts, tying a rope around your waist.
Not getting
she doesn't do.
No, that's not an option.
She doesn't do anything.
She's too scatterbrained to do anything about it, right?
It's not because she's scatterbrained. It's because she thinks that once she's seen it, it's already happened. So, like, why bother doing anything otherwise, right?
I mean, you would think that she would think, maybe I'm just going to stay on the ground. Maybe I'm just not going to.
Well, they set it up in such a way that she has to go on the airship. Like,
she has to.
She even gets it. She's like, okay, it has to be me. I see how we get there.
That literally should put the fear of God in her. Like, I'm just not going to. Y'all can go.
The only way that you can explain it without her being a complete moron is that, again, it's her Sharlayan education, right? That she just thinks that like prophecy is immutable, history is immutable, right? So
she's so dumb. She's one of those. She fits the archetype of so smart but so dumb. She's that pretty much.
Well. she tells us in the Southern Front that like this excursion is basically her first time out of Charlotte. She's never been in combat before now. She's never been
That's
like
why she
out
only knows
in
Stone
the field.
2.
Right. So she's learning very quickly.
Yeah.
She's learning very, very quickly.
She's learning some. She learned Ultra Instinct, but not Glare, apparently.
Well, she's doing her best, all right.
She's trying.
She's doing her dang best.
She's got book smarts, but no street smarts. That's what it is. I mean, to be fair, if she couldn't dodge every attack, then her version of the Echo would actually be bullshit.
That's true. That is true. Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
So then Matsuno tries to write Cid as being straight and fails.
It's like, nope, still loves Nero.
Man, people were so salty about that.
Yeah, they really wanted the Makoto Cid love duo. I mean, I wanted the love triangle where Nero sees it and he's like, no.
I'm still mad that Nero wasn't in this story.
Nero doesn't give it. Actually, to be fair, I'm amazed he didn't show up after the Diablo armament was beaten and he was just like, so what else is here?
Well, Nero wasn't here, and Nero wasn't in the weapons quest line either. Like, I feel like Nero got done real dirty this expansion.
They realized that
so much
it wasn't like Nero's probably sitting back at like the ironworks, and he's just like, oh shit, did you hear that thing that's going on? Nero, sit down, please, sit down, please, listen. We can.
But I want to go.
No.
Yeah, he was piloting.
We can make it. It's fine. We'll make it ourselves. We don't need to go. We'll just make one. Okay? Would that make you happy if we just make... No, we'll make our own. We have it at home. We have We have weapons at home. Okay?
That's like the parent. That is like the parent response to kid. But I want McDonald's. We got McDonald's at home. Shut the fuck up.
Somebody's got to be reigning.
He was piloting the G Savior.
Yes, he is piloting.
We do know that he was piloting the G Savior, but like he didn't have any lines. We didn't see him. That was just an Easter egg, you know.
But it was very Nero, to be fair, to literally be like, "Oh, Cid made that. Fuck that. I'm making one. I bet you mine's just as good or better."
But no, I love Nero, and I was very, very disappointed that he didn't show up.
He's got to be somewhere here. I mean, the big thing for me is he shows up to help us crack the code on the Allagan thing from point 4, and then he's just like, well, that was a steaming pile of shit. Moving on. And that's it. I was like, where the fuck are you going? I still want you here. But he's not here. He's got to be somewhere. I mean, Nero's just going to be around. He's just always going to be around.
He's the man of science.
He is the man of science. He's also a man of Cid, as far as I'm concerned. He's like joined at the hip.
Something.
If his hip was turned 90 degrees, he loves him.
He's got to have a role in Endwalker for sure. Yeah. So the Dalriada, what do you guys get out of that? I think an interesting one was
there's a fucking robot.
There's a robot.
There's a little bit more than a robot, but yeah.
Several robots.
I don't care. There was a robot.
There's a lot of robots.
Menenius. Yeah, where the fuck did Menenius learn to pilot a fucking robot? Jesus Christ.
Probably his homeland.
What are you talking about? The Magitech Academy?
Yeah, Magitech Academy.
Where they learn Magitech?
I mean, there's general Magitech, and then there's a fucking super robot. He's an
Allagan expert. He's an Allagan archaeologist.
He sure is.
Right.
Who knows the spear?
He sure does. Let me tell you, he sure does. Cahulan.
Yeah.
We've got a dissonance here between Cahulan the Voidsent and this one.
One that you were long suspecting.
Well, this one. Who was it?
Use your words.
I'm trying to remember who it was who drew Cahulan out. Yeah.
I have it. Oh, it's fuck. I knew too. You run into him a bunch throughout Bozja because he summons like Belias and all that. He's part of all of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Fuck. Chat'll know. That's fine.
Yeah. I'll just wait and chat.
Chat'll know.
Find it.
Chat, you'll know.
Gilbrisper.
There you go.
Oh yeah. Gilbrisper. Yes.
There you go. Yeah, he's part of a bunch of shenanigans.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. I don't like. I think it's so funny, through all these logs, like we have got more information on most of these characters than we do on most of the Scions, and yet they are so like arbitrary throwaway characters.
That's Matsuno for you, though. Matsuno loves doing it. Matsuno is a text like he will write an entire life story for every single character that he ever makes.
Yeah,
this is going to be a full section in the Encyclopedia or Tier 3.
Yeah,
section.
That's why
I can't decide whether. On one hand, I love it. I love getting all of this like just arbitrary world building just for like flavor. But on the other hand, I do believe that it's absolutely terrible storytelling to just like have exposition dumps like this.
Matsuno is very much known for writing incredible worlds and lores, having no method of which to tell you about them unless you pursue the info. It's like he's writing lore for a Dark Souls game, but also wanted the story, but kind of gave up halfway through.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's fantastic at world building, but I mean, this is why 14 is going so well at the moment, right? Is that you've got Oda and Koji, who are basically, I would say, students of Matsuno, right? They come from the Matsuno school of world building. And you could see that in ARR and Heaven's Ward. You had really excellent world building with really like thin characters. And then you get Ishikawa coming in and taking the reign on the narrative, who comes from the school of, basically like narrative trajectory and strong pacing and strong characters. And between them, you've got like the fucking dream team right there, Yeah, so, I mean, I keep saying, like, I want all of these logs and stuff, I want them everywhere throughout all of the game. I just don't want them to replace the better methods of narrative kind of storytelling, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with they have a lot of these arbitrary characters that show up just for the fates or just for one cutscene, and they just kind of background noise. But he doesn't want you to not give a shit about them, but there's no way he can tell you a story about every single one of them in terms of like...
No, there's no space.
Yeah. So he just wants you to see Papaga and know a little bit about her, which he didn't know she was going to have that emote and she was going to be super popular like that.
There was like so much flavor throughout all of Zadnor and all of the Southern Front as well, which was really, really nice. It's like every single one of these NPCs was a person, which is something you don't see much in the rest of 14, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, but going back to Cuchulainn, right?
Yeah.
So I remember, I think it was who was it? The Void Sent,
use your words.
Hawk Manor. What's her name?
Halicarnassus? Or you mean
Halicarnassus? Yes, thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So we have the Halicarnassus there, and then we have the Halicarnassus that we encounter during the Omega. Right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the explanation we're given is that there's this fairy tale, right, about Halicarnassus that the one in Hawk Manor was named after, right? And I think that something similar is going on with Cuchulainn, right? One way or the other, right? Either the Void Sent was named after the Esper, or the Esper was named after the Void Sent.
It's tough to tell because one thing that the Omega series deliberately keeps what's the word I'm looking for? I guess they just don't explain it, and they do this on purpose. they keep it vague,
Yeah.
is because they don't want you to know where the fairy tale came from. They don't want to have to explain if it's from another shard, if it's from another game in the case of some of them. So that way they just don't have to explain it. So for all we know, these are legends from the 13th before it became the Void, and these Void Scent are relative to that. There's just no way to know. So that's my guess, though, or Allegan's. Who fucking knows?
Yeah. But I think what we need to establish is that this Cahoolan that we fight in Dalriada and the Void Scent Cahoolan are two completely different entities. And I think a lot of like new people that haven't really dived into the lore get really confused by that. For obvious reasons, right? It is quite confusing. Not as confusing as Diablo's, but we'll come to that.
Yes, we sure will. Before we get to him, I guess I love that Lion just keeps finding all these giant dog birds, and he's like, okay, Dawan the first, Dawan the second, Dawan the third. How many Dawans does this guy know? How many Dawans does this guy bred? He's just like, I've got all these Dawans in my crew. Dawan the younger. I guess they'll just keep dying too.
Yeah.
Now we just need him to like necromancer one back and just get Dawan the Undying or some shit like that. No, this one is Dawan. Oh man. But there's not much to say about Dawan. I mean, there is. I think he's got a log, doesn't he, Dawan?
Yeah, he's got a log. Yeah. He's from basically the central Ilzabardian mountains.
It's a legendary
presumably beast. Around there. I really want to explore some of those zones.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Because it doesn't seem like we're going to. It doesn't seem like we're...
There's nothing... I mean, we don't know exactly what's listed. I mean, we know what's listed so far, zone-wise, from the... You froze, by the way. I don't know if you can still hear me. But your camera's frozen.
He can.
He can or can't? Because he can't reply.
Can. He said he can.
Yeah, but he could also speak last time, so it's hard to know whether or not he actually can, or if he's been fully dropped. That's a great face, though. I'll be the first to admit. That is a great face. I'll say that much. Because he wants to talk about Diablo, and we definitely need him here for Diablo. There we go. It looks like you're
I'm still here.
Yeah, now
I can still hear.
Yeah, I told you he could still hear us. Yeah.
It's hard to tell because you can't respond for the longest time.
I know.
There you go. Diablo.
Yeah, I'm just like, hello.
Doesn't work.
Yes, Diablo.
Yes, the Diablo.
Quite a treasure you have there.
Yeah, so I don't think any of us expected. So I mean, we were able to hear the theme music to Diablo in the trailer, but I don't think any of us really put together, because you don't hear the Diablo part. The one part they omit from the trailer is the Diablo part. They put all the other things in the trailer, but that was a shocker, because now we have a whole nother breed of Allagan fuck-ups that we have to deal with, most likely.
Well,
potentially.
Yes and no. This goes back to Azazlar, right? It goes back to the fractal continuum, the ostensibly museum, right? And what we learned from there is that the Allagans had created and studied synthetic void scent, right? In the same way that, like, they'd look at dragons and they'd look at, like, various sort of chimera-esque creatures, like the reptilian centaur things, like the lizard centaurs from Mericidia. They were like, oh, we could make that better. And just, like, synthetically made it, artificially made it. They were doing the same thing for void scent. Between that and between Proto-Ultima, reverse engineering Ultima, they were like, okay, we need a void scent army that we can use to crush Mericidia. However, we have two methods for summoning void scent. One of them is to open portals, which only basically void scent of a power that is kind of in relation to the size and the stability of the portal can actually come through, which means stuff like Cloud of Darkness, for instance, can't get through that, right? That's what the Crystal Tower was a solution for. Alternatively, we can summon them into hosts, into bodies, And same thing, the power of the void scent is basically proportionate to the power of the body. So we can summon a super powerful void scent into a body, but it will be significantly weaker than its potential based on that body. So what we're going to do is we're going to create synthetic bodies, clones effectively, that are, kind of like chimerified through various etheric chemistry, bodies that are like specifically custom made to summon void scent into. And we can make this even more streamlined by creating bodies for specific void scents, bodies that are
elegance.
We're gonna miss the juiciest part. We're gonna miss the juiciest part.
Just so you know, Ethys, because we can't continue.
Just hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second, Ethys.
Yeah. You were saying this bodies that are, and then we lost you. So as soon as you come back, you can continue from there. All right. That's elegance. That's the elegance meme, right?
Elegance.
Elegance.
Yep. Elegance.
We can hear you again and see you again.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
You're back.
All right, yes. So they were making these bespoke synthetic hosts for specific void scent, right?
Mm.
That were specifically custom made to summon specific void scent. So some people have been looking at, I think it was also in the log for the Diablos armament, right? Where it seemed to be possibly implying that Diablos wasn't an individual, it was a type. That's what I had a lot of people saying to me. They were like, oh no, they confirmed that there's like a bunch of different Diabloses. He's just a type of void scent, he's not an individual. That is not what I got from the log whatsoever. And that's also not, I think people were asking Matsuno about this on Twitter as well. And he said something similar. Was it Matsuno?
There was an interview that came out too where they described that Diablo was just like say, I think it was asking why it's called the Diablo armament and not
that's right.
Diablos armament. Yeah. And it was just because that was the name they interpreted for him at the time. Similar to how like Azim and Azima and things like just different cultural representations of them.
Yeah, that was it. So the Allegans had a slightly different name for it. Yeah. And people took that as well and interpreted that as like, oh, okay, so there was like a bunch of different types of void scent like Diablos. There was Diablos and there was Diablo and there were different people. No, I think that's a mistake. Diablos is an individual. He's one dude. Every time that we fought Diablos, he's been the same dude. They made this host body, this synthetic void scent, specifically for him to summon him into to go and fuck shit up in Mericidia, right? The Garleans recovered that body and probably used a synthetic Aurosite or some other similar, basically like an operating system, rather than having the consciousness of the void scent in there. And that's why it starts like messing up and going haywire, right? Yeah. It's basically like software incompatibility.
Yeah, because the body isn't inactive and then active. It needs to be powerful enough without him in it in order for them to use it to restrain him. Because essentially they want to use it like a Neuralink at the end of the day. They want to trap him in
exactly.
there.
Yeah. And in the same way that like the Ultima weapon is designed to be automated, but it can be piloted. It's designed to be powered by primals, but works just fine without them. Yeah, it's kind of the same sort of thing we've got going here, right?
Yeah, that was. I remember having this discussion on a live stream too. Basically, the same conclusion that it was. Yeah. He's just not in there. They just never.
Yeah, he's not in.
Never bore fruit. Now, one thing is the question I have is how many of these armaments did they make? How many of the high tier void scent were they aware of and or trying to create host bodies for? Did they decide to start with Diablos and then they were going to go from there? That doesn't sound like the Allegan philanthropy that I'm used to, where they put all their eggs in one basket and say, no, that one is fine.
Look, I think they probably did a bunch of them, but I think that they probably all had complications. They all had issues. in the same way that all the proto-Ultimas didn't really quite work, right? They all had problems. The fact that they decided that they were going to have to open a giant void portal to be able to have powerful void set come through via the Crystal Tower. I mean, we have, you know, this kind of this description of Xande being kind of like Thanos, right? He's obsessed with death, right? And he's not really so interested in continuing to like conquer the world as he is in just like death and destruction for the sake of it. And that's why he wanted to open the portal. But at the same time, there had to be like a justification for that. And I think it probably would have been that these synthetic void set were not quite enough. But I'm sure we are gonna. I mean, who knows? Like, there's got to be the door's open right now. We've got the precedent. They can invent as many of these as they like now. It's definitely one of these things that, like, this synthetic void set, this Diabolos armament was probably not conceived of, was almost certainly not conceived of back in ARR, this type of entity. But now that they've made the justification, they've set the precedent, they can throw as many of these at us as they want, you know?
They sure can. So
it's just another type of boss now.
Yeah, Ferdiad,
Skothic.
Yeah. And honestly, it's a fun way to like revisit all of these enemies again, I think.
I mean, we haven't dealt with every void sense, so there are probably some new ones that we don't even know about.
Oh, for sure.
One has to assume there's more powerful void set we never dealt with. I remember the one that's in the Void Quests, what came out and everyone thought it was going to be unique and like fun, and then you just like stomp it in like a cutscene or something. I don't remember. It, like its face came out of the portal and it was like, hey, and we're just like, what the fuck is that thing?
Yeah, and we're just like,
yeah, pretty much like
get back in there.
The thing was fucking dead. Yeah, unfortunate. Yeah, I'm hoping that I don't know where we're going, man. That's it. There's so many places to go. There's so many places certain elements of the story can go. But I guess the question then becomes like, what happens? Like now we wait for Damascus. I mean, here's the thing. End of 6.0, Damascus is liberated. As far as I'm concerned, it's liberated now. Like it isn't in a way, but I mean the logs make it sound like it is. It might as well be at this point, considering that entire thing is underground at the very least.
Okay, well let's talk about the logs. Let's do that. We never get to meet Noah.
Nope.
We get a little cutscene after Dalriada where Menenius and Leon are just like gay as fuck, which is awesome. I love that. Those two are so horny for each other. But Menenius is dead, ostensibly. Leon escapes. Goes back to Valnain. Noah tells him that he's been a naughty boy. Naughty boy needs to go to his room for a little while, just so that everyone else can see that he's being punished. But Noah's basically like, oh yeah, by the way, I got cancer or whatever. Seems to be the same thing that killed his dad.
Yeah.
And Leon's like, oh, that sucks, bro. Sorry to hear that, but it was going to happen eventually, right?
He really does say it like that. He really, you're not even wrong. He literally goes, yeah, I saw that one coming. And it's like...
Leon's a sociopath, honestly.
Yeah.
He really is. But yeah, then we get this log being like, yeah, and then Leon killed Noah in his sleep, and now he's the judge.
But also on the run.
But also on the run, and that's his story done. Yeah, fuck you, Ishikawa, this is my story. You're not finishing it. I just did, baby.
Yeah, essentially he writes the epilogue into their log. It's the literal epilogue, I suppose. And
I was so mad. I was so mad about this, honestly.
It's really
so salty.
It's really weird.
It really would be like that. I really think that it's Matsuno, like, all love to him, all power to him, you know, it's his story. But it is him being, like, possessive, where it seems like he wanted to continue it and wasn't able to immediately or you know, wanted to wait until all the Dalmasca stuff was cleared up, but was like, I don't want anyone else to take over this story and move it in a direction other than the one that I wanted. So I'm just gonna put what should have been the big
finale
conclusion, in footnotes.
That's pretty much that.
It just seemed like vindictive, didn't it?
How long have we been building up Gabron? Like ever since what?
Paternity Evil?
Well, ever since the beginning of Storm, ever since 4.1 at least, right?
Jesus.
There is an extended version of that interview where we were supposed to meet Gabron, by the way. Matsuno said we were supposed to. Actually, I think he said we were supposed to fight him, but because of Varys,
of course we were supposed to.
I would imagine.
Yeah, but he said that he decided to omit it because he thought that it was going to be too similar to Varys, the Varys encounter.
Who cares?
I'm just saying. I'm letting you know what he said. Mad. This is what Matsuno said. All right.
Listen, Menenius getting a Gundam, that was cool. You know, the Diablo armament, that was cool. But the fact that we got to the end and it was like, and then Noah died in his sleep or whatever, it's just like. It's just vindictive.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we do get at least a cool finishing scene where something I predicted was probably going to happen in the form of Mizia using the sword to do this one last thing. As soon as I saw the Diablo armament wasn't dead, I was like, Mizia's going to fucking show up, isn't she? And sure fucking enough.
That was really upsetting though, right? Was like, hey, are we gonna stab her to death, or are you gonna stab her to death? And I was like, I don't want these choices. Why are these my only two choices?
Yeah, we could have saved her.
For me,
I was so fucking mad at that.
Yeah. So here's the thing: in 14, your choices they do not matter, right? You're on the rails. There's one storyline. Now, when you want to give people the illusion that their choices matter, you have to be so careful, because when you do that and they matter even less after your input, it kind of like shatters the illusion, right? It draws attention to the fact that as an RPG, you have nothing. You have no power. You have no influence. I love the way 14's story is structured, but that was such like a bitter moment for me where I was like, you got a choice here. And it was just drawing attention to the fact that no, actually, I really don't. I really don't. And this is really unpleasant. But I think that was the point, right? It was supposed to feel unpleasant. Like this whole chapter is about like so much about like the bitterness and the realities of war. I know like this is a really common theme for Matsuno, right? Is like not fantasizing war and conflict. It's ugly, it's unpleasant, it's tragic, it's awful. People, like most people die, and the ones that are left are irreparably damaged. So I think he wanted us to feel really awful about that choice. I just think that I felt awful not only for my character, but also for myself as a player, for drawing attention to the limitations of this narrative structure that the game uses, right?
Mm-hmm.
See, I thought that way more back in Bozja, where they make you pick your solution to deal with Eureka, but then you just do the opposite of it after you beat Baldesion anyway.
Right. Yeah.
Especially because a lot of people then didn't do Baldesion, so it's like, oh man, I got to make a choice, and then when you do it, you're like, nah, never mind. Just do the opposite.
Yeah.
It's so funny. It's the same way regardless.
Oh god, that was really. I mean, it was effective, right? It was really upsetting. It was really unpleasant.
Yeah. At the very least, I still enjoyed pretty much all of Bozja, and I didn't see a world in which I think they knew deep down, like, okay, we can't have two $4. We really can't.
Of course.
We can't have two.
Oh, of course, yeah. Absolutely.
Because that's essentially what Mizia was becoming.
That's the logic?
$4 too. Yeah.
That's the logic, really?
Boogaloo.
Absolutely, but you know,
my mind.
I was expecting it to be like classic Final Fantasy style. You know, kind of like how Yazael died. You know, is like just her and Diablo kill each other and she disappears in a cloud of ether, not like on the ground vomiting blood and us having to slit her throat. You know, fucking hell.
Yeah, but like, I did it. So.
But I did though.
I mean, yeah, but like, I did it. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I guess again, they could have just made us like they could have just made one of the other NPCs do it, and never asked us if we wanted to do it, kind of thing, and just it would have gone down the same way, but without the botched illusion of choice. Because she wanted it. It's not like we were like, oh, we have to do this. She's like, no, come on, kill me.
She was dying as well. Yeah. Like we'd already realized that she was beyond healing at that point.
Yeah.
So it was about putting her out of her misery. It was like our choice was effectively like, do we think this person deserves to die quickly or die slowly and painfully?
Yeah.
That was the choice. And she was like, please, I am suffering. Just get it over with. Just put me out of my misery. And that was like it was literally, it was like, do we euthanize her or not? And that was awful. That's an awful, awful, awful kind of choice to give to a player.
And honestly. A very Matsuno style choice at that. They said they changed it. Yeah. That it was initially a little more direct, I suppose. Let me see if I can find the line. Didn't want a war. Let's see. Oh, one of the scrapped ideas was to have the Warrior of Light as a juror to decide the execution, but the players didn't want to have that kind of stress, so they changed it to acting as an observer. So essentially, if you had chosen the no, you would have still been a part of like a group of peers that decided her fate. But instead, they're just like, nah, just kill her.
Well, I believe that if you choose yes, I'll do it, then she bleeds out before you do it.
But if you say no, then I think Baisai-jin.
If you say no, yeah, Bashausen does it. Yeah. So it's like if you say yes and want to do the merciful thing, then she suffers.
Either way, she suffers.
Either way, she dies.
Well, yeah. But it was a really, really unpleasant experience for me, honestly.
I was like, all right, Mizia, listen, you didn't earn my trust like everyone else. It's like, whatever. Just all right, I'm good.
Oh, if you say yes, apparently if you say yes, then Baz will kill her. So he does it either way.
It was my duty.
All right.
Anyway, she's dead. She's out of the story. Unless she suddenly decided that with her stolen resonance, she also can body hop. I think it's implied that with what she did with the weapon, she's like dunzo. Like she doesn't have the same capacity.
No, I don't think she has the same sort of density as Xenos does to be able to do that.
Yeah. He's certainly got the booty cheeks to show his density. Good old Xenos. He's going to clap back and end Walker.
Thanks, I hate it.
You're welcome. Listen, you can't
So that was 5.55.
No, there's one other thing. There's one other thing.
Oh. Okay.
So that near finale, though.
So that's 5.55. Thank you guys so much for coming out to the show. God, what?
Did you, by any chance, have you seen my reaction to the end of the near quest?
I don't think I need to.
You really, honestly, I think you want to, though.
I probably should, yeah. Yeah, it's probably pretty similar to mine.
Because I did one video that was a joke where I won't spoil it if you haven't seen it, but I play a joke on how near games normally end. And the other one is my actual response to, like, because they decided, oh, after those 6 quests, by the way, here's a 7th one in 5.55. And I was like, fucking stop. Stop.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my genuine reaction. That one is just all me with just the light editing.
So you just pulled a Yoko Taro, basically.
Yeah, my favorite part of that last quest there's actually I have two favorite parts of that last Nier quest. The first is that it was the last one, and it's as of this moment still is the last one. Two, every server except one had 69% on one of the choices, and it was an EU. I'm sorry, I think it was specifically that EU data center had all but one server with 69%, and I forget the server. I think it was Cerberus that ruined it, one of them, and it was 68%. So, but there was a lot of 69%, so I was happy to see that.
Let's not like belabor it. We're beating a dead horse at this point, but I gotta say, everything that we've been saying about this collab and about Yoko Taro since it was announced, and all of the salt and all of the hate, I just gotta say, I'm sure, Mike, you feel the same, but I feel like pretty vindicated right now.
There's no vindication in this.
I mean, yes, there's vindication in the form that we were fucking right.
It doesn't matter. That doesn't create vindication. And here's the thing. I want to be very clear about something. I have gone through every forum, every post that I could possibly to make sure I fully understand the exact repercussions on Draken Nier or Nier and Guard that has, because it's all canon. And that has not changed my opinion on it in even remotely the slightest. The only thing I've gone back and kind of adjusted my opinion on is I think Copied Factory was actually a good 24-man in terms of like fun. That's the only thing I've gone back and thought of and reprimanded, is that I look back on Copied Factory, I'm like, okay, that was fun. I enjoyed that. The last boss, not so much, but everything else, that was great. The hallway section, the third boss is really good. The second boss, I've gone back and I've been like, you know what? Out of the three, that one gets a pass for me. I could still do that one in a roulette if it popped up and not hate myself.
I feel like with Nier, with each iteration, with each patch, we've gone like we've done probably double steps in some. But I feel like we've gone through the 7 steps of grief.
I'm sorry, I also meant Puppets Bunker. You're right, my bad. I misnamed them. I'm sorry. I had to fix that ASAP. I didn't mean Puppets Bunker, not Copied. Copied Factory is the worst of the 3. So.
Yeah, I feel like we've gone through the 7 steps of grief with Nier, and we're just at the point where I don't even think we're bargaining now. I mean, but we're accepting. We're accepting. We never really bargain. But we accept it for what it is, and you had this sort of small tinge of optimism.
I did. I said I won't judge it till it's done, and now it's over.
Yeah, and we can judge
the shit out of it. Yeah, okay, that's fair.
I'm not mad. I'm not upset anymore. What is the final stage of grief? Of mourning? Acceptance? Is that it?
Acceptance.
Oh yeah,
acceptance.
I'm definitely at acceptance. Yeah. I'm definitely there.
Yeah. I like how somebody in chat's like, I'm still at anger.
Yeah, no, I'm at that's why I've been able to go back and look at Puppets Bunker and be like, yeah, no, I had a good time there. That was all right. I could certainly do it again. But the rest of that, no. I'd rather play Chrono Cross again.
I know I'm reiterating here. I know that we've kind of said this a lot of times, but this is probably the last time that we're going to be talking about the Nier stuff directly and specifically.
Fucking better be.
So, my opinion, and I kind of hold to this, right? Every single 24-man since A Realm Reborn has done so much heavy lifting for world building and for, kind of grander scope storytelling outside of and around the MSQ and contributing to the MSQ, padding the MSQ, raising the stakes for the MSQ. Nier has not done that at all, not even a little bit. And that is okay to me because we had the weapons quest line. which contributed way more than the 8-man raids, the 8-man trials, I should say, usually do. We've also had Bozja, which added way more than any exploratory content has done before now. All of the other side quests in Shadowbringers have been about building the narrative, raising the stakes, supporting the kind of climax that Endwalker is going to be. The fact that Nia didn't is totally fine. It's totally okay, because even without it, we got more than we normally do. They were fun 24-mans. I enjoyed them. I got what I expected. I only feel vindicated because this is what I've been saying and what we've all been saying the whole way through, is that like we don't think that it's going to be what the Yoko Taro stands hope or what they expect. And maybe it is, you know, maybe all the Yoko Taro fanboys are still kidding themselves and still think that this is a majestic, incredible work of art that he's produced here. To that, I have absolutely nothing. To that, I have absolutely nothing to say other than like, just don't at me because I don't care. But I do feel like I say, a little bit vindicated, and I feel like perhaps now a lot of you guys see where we were coming from when we had no expectations for anything of the sort.
I just wanted it to at least, because I remember when I first played Drakengard, I fought all the flying babies. Like I've been there. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel any better about what's implied by what the final boss is, other than being able to recognize it as a reference and a continuation of plot lines that had pre-existed. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if you draw comparisons to the two dwarves to a character in the Draken. It just it doesn't. It's still just a hollow shell to me that was moderately okay to go through the first time. For me, agonizing to go through on repeat visits for Copied and Tower. Puppets, again, you get a pass. I actually think you're a good 24-man. But at least I got some dope music out of it.
Look, yeah, exactly. Great, phenomenal sound design, great level design, like everything design-wise, I think was really on point, including for me, the fight design. I really enjoyed.
No, not for me. Definitely in most of them, not the fight design for me, except in a couple of Puppets Bunker. That's why Puppets Bunker gets a pass, because I think they did that one pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Narrative design.
I mean, this is from the man who tells everyone on stream that he's a liar and we shouldn't believe anything he says. So. But at least he got Yoshida to talk about 16. So. I don't know if Sakaguchi managed that. They just finished their conversation, I think, or they did that earlier today or something. Mm-hmm. So, at least he did that. Yoko Taro was my hero for about 15 minutes. He gets that from me.
And
he must be a nightmare to interview. He is just.
I don't know. He's a wild card, and I was okay with that. Listen, his interview was. I was able to power through his interview a little bit more easily than a lot of others, despite me not being invested in the near range. His interview was just good. that was the bottom line. So I'll give him that. And considering how long we were fucking sitting here during that, I really needed that at the moment.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Well,
but now that Yoko Taro's destroyed the Square Enix headquarters, we just don't have to worry about it anymore.
So I guess with this, we bury the deer topic forever.
Until we get the follow-up quest in 6.01, yeah.
Stop it. Yeah. May it rest in peace. Thanks for the times.
I don't want any of the things you just said. Burn it, and
whether they were good,
burn
good
it,
or bad.
And we didn't have a good time.
I didn't say good times. I said times.
Yeah, no, I think you said good. I think you forgot though. I think you've omitted that from memory already. Thanks for the ass, and we'll see you later.
May you rest in peace.
There you go. Yeah. And we got to see Yoshida do this for 30 minutes on a live stream because of he literally did this. He just kept, and we couldn't even understand. It wasn't even translated like at the time. He just kept doing this, and we're like, he's still talking about the glam, isn't he? Yup.
Yeah.
Yup. That's it.
Sure is.
Sure. Oh my god.
Oh,
but yeah, that's 5.55.
So I have one question for you.
Mm-hmm.
When's the quiz?
Give us 2 or 3 weeks. How's that sound?
It's gonna have to be. Let me tell you this: if it's not next week,
3
which
weeks.
it won't be, it definitely won't be in 2 weeks. So it's a minimum 3.
3 weeks.
All right,
so
we'll do
3 weeks.
Because
3 weeks.
For those unaware, in 2 weeks, there will be the embargo lift on the media tour, and we are not doing Air Zivia that week.
No,
sir.
No.
So October 13th for that one. So.
All right. 3 weeks then. I will see you guys again.
Just in time for me to forget everything again. Perfect.
And it will be covering 5.55, or will it just be?
Oh, it's gonna. We didn't do one on 5.5, sir.
So it's
right,
gonna be 5.5.
So that means diamond weapon.
It'll be 5.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as usual, we may include a couple of wild cards.
If you ask a near question, you're fired.
Yeah.
Just want you to know, we've just agreed we're putting it to rest here. So if you put a question about your name, you're fired.
Yep.
All right, deal.
Okay, that's just making sure the stakes are understood there. Okay, well with that, we can wrap up the show so I can get to working on. Oh wait, I think Mel has a question for you, but she can't type in the chat. I got to figure out what are those burner accounts that she made as a joke that I gotta. She said she has a question for Ethys, please. She's typing it now.
Oh.
She could also. Oh no, actually, I think she's not home right now, but she just really wants to ask you this question. If she hasn't finished typing it yet, let me just let her know that I see this. When will he visit the sun so he's not so white anymore?
Okay.
Wow.
Right. That's
I have not. As you guys know, I've been in Norway for 2 years. I haven't had a summer since the beginning of 2019, and I cannot wait to get back to the beach once we get out of lockdown.
She lives with me, and she's asking you this, by the way. And I'm not exactly the tannest individual. I've got a bit of like yellow light coming from over there, and that's about it.
She's just jealous that I got beautiful skin. I got a lot more gray hair now, but I've got beautiful skin. Yeah, I think I'm doing all right for 30.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, I'll catch you guys in 3 weeks.
She said she's not jealous of shit, by the way. All right. I'm done reading her DMs at this point. So thanks everyone for tuning in to State of the Realm number 290. Oh no, she's got a question. Hold on. Let's get through the outro before she asks Sly a question.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is.
She got a question for me.
She hasn't typed it yet.
Yeah,
let's
get through.
Let's get through the outro first. Thanks everyone for joining us for State of the Realm number 290. As stated, we will be doing our Air Zivia, which is our lore trivia show that Ethys makes us look like idiots on. That'll be in 3 weeks. In 2 weeks, we'll be doing a show on the stuff that comes out of the media tour. Probably do multiple shows on that, to be honest, because it's going to be a ton of information.
It's a lot.
So, a general show about the thoughts, first impressions, and then we could probably bring on some experts on certain roles to talk about changes on various things. Obviously, there's tanks, healers, DPS, but we also don't have that many shows until Endwalker comes out. So unless we plan on doing a week where we do 2 shows potentially, we might not be able to fit in all the experts that we want to bring on. So we'll have to keep you tentatively in the know with that when Sly and I talk about it behind the scenes. I know what the question is. I saw 2 words, and I know what the question is, Sly. But before we ask Sly this burning question, Ethys, thank you for joining us. Thank you for waking up early. on one of your days off and joining us for this. So why don't you tell everyone where they can find you at?
Oh, geez. You can find me right here where I've been locked down for several months. Melbourne's got the world record for the most days in lockdown. Really, though, you can find me Twitch, Twitter, YouTube. Those are the main places. Ethys Asher, ETHYSASHER. I'm in those places. I'll probably be streaming tomorrow, doing some Zadnor, and hopefully uploading the rest of our Zadnor playthrough to YouTube very soon as well. If any of you guys actually in the Australian time zone, AEST, are like good editors looking for work, then get into my DMs because I need an editor. But that's me, guys. I've missed you, and I'll see you in 3 weeks. But it's been a pleasure. Over to Sly.
Hi, how you doing? You can find me at twitch.tv/Sly, aka Grey Fox. You can find me on Twitter at Sly the Fox. Like Hap said before, October 13th, just going through media tour stuff, continuing counting down until SRW 30, because SRW 30 is literally the start of me not having a life for the rest of the year. But before that, tomorrow, of course, WSOY, I always do WSOY, but tomorrow is a first Saturday, so I'm doing it live, 14. If you're on Primal, you're definitely invited. Come out. Love to have you. Since it's not Halloween, but, we're not doing first Saturday, it's costume party. So, don your best costume. Look good. Kill prize.
Oh, I've got my costume.
Where can they find you?
Don't worry, I've got my costume. Don't worry. Here. It's my costume.
Oh, fuck.
There it is.
There it is. Dude, I wish I still had the Blue Mage mask. I don't know where that is. The one that I have. Unfortunate. All right. By the way, Sly, the question is, why do you hate Chocobo Racing and Mario Party? Why won't you stream it for the kids? That was the question.
So perhaps where can I find you?
You can find me, Mr. Happy1227, pretty much everywhere. Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. Those are the primary places you'll be finding me. I'll be a little quieter on YouTube for the next couple of weeks because my life will be absorbed into media tour related video creation. I'm currently planning on having 22 videos that come out at embargo timing. Don't listen. Is this a fucking surprise at this point? Come on now.
Not really.
Come on.
Why do you hate yourself so much?
I do it because I love myself, and I need to love myself.
When are you gonna hire an editor?
Right.
Never, because I'm too much of a control freak. It won't ever happen.
That is big true.
It'll never happen. Strangers of Paradise, I actually got to interview the producer and director on the Square Enix side and the producer from the Team Ninja at Koei Tecmo side. I put that out on YouTube today. I also got to play Demo 2 early, but Demo 2 just hit PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S today. I highly recommend it. It also got confirmed for a March 18th release date. So that's only a month before Forspoken. So March just got a little bit busier. April is also busier because of Forspoken. So got some fun stuff coming down the pipeline once we've winded down a little bit from Endwalker's release. And I've leveled everything to 90 because I will be leveling them very fast in Endwalker, let me tell you. So that's what I'm working on. That's what the plans are. So you might see me around the Twitch directory in the evenings, just keeping my mind idle because sometimes I just need the brain to go over here so I can come back over here. Otherwise, I'll go fucking insane. So that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at mentally. So enjoy. But anyway, we're going to move on into a short post show, and then we won't see you next week. But we'll definitely see you the week after that, and the week after that, and probably most weeks after that. Will. It's probably be weekly. You'll probably start the Steel Series giveaways again at that point. Anyway, we'll see you later, and until next time, take care.
See you in 2 weeks.